our next film is, it's a big budget film. It is the third film in the film franchise. It is technically a prequel, but not by more than a year or two. This is A Quiet Place. If you ever watched The Quiet Place and thought this is a great film, but I wonder how the aliens got here, this is the film that is trying to answer that question.
Or just watch the first 20 minutes of A Quiet Place Part 2.
Yeah, that too. So in this one, we see the trailers of the aliens invading Earth. We see Lupita Nyong'o in New York, kind of surviving because she has plot armor. This is it is A Quiet Place Day 1. I think this looks pretty good. I love the setup of it, and anytime you can get John Krasinski involved in something, even though he's only the co-writer or he's credited as a writer, probably from the characters. What are your thoughts on the trailer for A Quiet Place Day 1?
I'm mixed on this one. If it was the first movie, there was no Quiet Place or Quiet Place Part 2, I would think it looks awesome. And I do think it looks awesome. I think the trailer looks great. The problem for me with this one is the fact that we have A Quiet Place and we have A Quiet Place Part 2, and we know how these monsters got defeated at the end of A Quiet Place Part 1. We know about the frequency. Yeah. They don't know about that yet, but we will. And A Quiet Place Part 2 kind of did a short film version of this where we already saw the first invasion. It wasn't in New York, obviously, but it was in a small town. And even in that small town, when they first arrived and no one knew the rules about don't make sound, people were getting slaughtered left and right. It was a bloodbath. And I can't help but think of okay, you're going back, you're doing a prequel for this. I already know how to take down these monsters. I already know that you can't make sound. I already have the knowledge that these characters won't, and you're putting them in the loudest city possible. How on earth are you even going to be able to tell a story? How like everyone should just be getting demolished every second. There should be no room for 2 hours for this movie. This movie should be over in 5 seconds, in my opinion. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get around that. I think, if I remember correctly, the character in the movie is deaf as well. I think they're doing that again, like they did with the daughter in the family in the first one, which worked because that explained why the family knew sign language and why they were able to survive. It's going to be interesting to see how they get around the fact that this person's deaf and she's not going to die right away because she doesn't know about sound. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how they go about this one, because on surface level, it looks like a fun alien invasion action film. But when I think about A Quiet Place and what we've gotten before and how this fits in, I'm iffy. I'm very iffy.
So would you say that's in the category?
Yeah.
Because to me, A Quiet Place was such a pleasant surprise.
Absolutely, yeah.
Of several years ago, and yeah, it's a simple setup, and it's the storytelling is superb and so well executed, and it's just, yeah, of course, it's John Krasinski wanting to work with his wife. Who wouldn't want to work with Emily Blunt? And it's sort of one of those. It's sort of one of those interesting things too. Of, well, if they ever had the big budget.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, the studio went, okay, well, yeah, we'll give you a big budget. And so now all of a sudden we're taking the indie movie darling of a couple of years ago and saying, boom, here's the big Cloverfield alien invasion thing. And so that worries me a little bit.
Yeah.
To me, that does kind of venture into the category a little bit, but just a little bit. I think because the whole alien invasion thing has been done and redone so many times, but because John Krasinski was behind that first film, and it was so well conceived that so much of that thought has already gone into the production of this film even before it even took over.
Yeah.
In the same way that I was saying before about Jeff Nichols being initially named to direct A Quiet Place Day 1. The director of this film, Michael Michael Sarnoski. Um, he's done little bits here and there, television mostly. There's nothing really significant that I've seen in his filmography that really makes me say, "Oh, that's a brilliant choice
Mhm.
for a big budget third film in a series." I don't really have any opinion on Michael Sarnoski as a writer director, but he is the director and he's the co-writing. He has co-writing credits, so um, the fact that we have three writers credited kind of worries me a little bit, and that
Right.
probably is just John Krasinski because he created the characters and he created the world, so that might be why he has the writing credit, and it's just Michael Sarnoski
Mhm.
who wrote the thing. I don't know, but that does worry me a little bit. That is a great tagline, though. Experience the day the world went quiet. That is a
Yes,
great
that's
tagline.
amazing tagline.
Yeah,
Everything about it feels like it would work if it wasn't a prequel. Like, if this
and
was the
it's
first
only
thing
a
that came
prequel.
out.
It's only a prequel by a year though. It's day one. And they were what, day 400 and something.
Yeah, something like that.
So it's not like it's 20 years earlier. It's not like we're going to see Jar Jar Binks running through the streets and.
But doesn't in that way, in some ways, doesn't it just kind of feel like a prologue that's been stretched out to be a feature-length movie? Like, doesn't it just kind of feel like they are taking the first part of part 2, placing it in a different setting, and then just stretching it out? Like, that's the one thing that I'm baffled by with this decision is I'd rather just have a Quiet Place Part 3. I'd rather them just to focused all their energy in going forward, and completing the story in that sense, or even focusing on a different family in another part of the town. But I don't know, just going back to the first day it happened to me is kind of like I feel like I'm going to watch something I already know and seen before. That's kind of how I
Well,
feel about it in some ways, just in New York.
and I think that's part of the brilliance of this, though. I think part of that is because we're not following John Krasinski in New York on a day trip for some reason.
Oh, that'd be awful. That would be
Yeah, so
terrible.
it's a completely new set of characters. I have seen A Quiet Place Part 2, but I don't remember if there's any of these. Just looking at the cast list, I don't know if anyone here is crossing over with the second film. But obviously, it's a whole new set of characters for the most part. It's in New York. Yes, we've seen New York
Mhm.
blown up by aliens before, but I think you said it right, where it's one of the noisiest, loudest cities on the face of the earth. So the fact that this is where aliens are attacking first kind of makes sense, especially given the type of aliens that are there. But I wonder if there's a bigger plan for this franchise, given that John Krasinski's
Yeah.
involved. He's very intelligent. He doesn't do anything half-cocked. So I'm wondering if if A Quiet Place Day One does well. I wonder if there's a plan for Lupita Nyong'o's character and Djimon Hounsou's character to
Mhm.
meet up with the other cast for a meetup film, for a team-up film, if you will, in A Quiet Place Part 4.
Yeah.
And create a Quiet Place cinematic
I
universe.
could see them trying to do that, absolutely, or an anthology or something like that.
Yeah, A Quiet Place, the search for, a Quiet Place, the search for trying to find a place to count your money. So, yeah, hopefully, I'm optimistic for this film. I haven't been disappointed yet with this film series, and anything John Krasinski to me falls in the good category. Is there anything for you that's in the bad or the meh?
Well, John Krasinski's not directing this one. I think that's kinda disappointing. And I feel like the trailers have put a real focus on the invasion and on the aliens, and I feel like the magic of A Quiet Place is the family. Like, the aliens aren't really the focus, it's the characters, and I feel like that's why it worked so well for me. So I'm hoping that what you said is the truth. I'm hoping that we follow just these new characters and we love these new characters and it's the characters first over the aliens. But if they try to put the aliens front and center and just make it about that, I feel like it's gonna lose something special that A Quiet Place had. So that worries me a little bit. But like I said, like other than A Quiet Place and Quiet Place 2 already existing, the movie did look very entertaining from the trailers. Like I'm definitely gonna see it. I hope I love it. I'm just worried about how it's gonna feel placed where it's at.
the potential meh thing, and I hope it's not, and that's why I say it's a potential meh, is if this turns out to be just an alien invasion story,
Yeah.
it looks like it's well executed, and I'd be okay with that to a certain extent. But I'm wondering if, because the trailers are showing all the high budget special effects CGI, showing the alien invasion stuff, I wonder if they're holding out on whatever the true parts of the story that they're going to be telling are. And not just be quiet. We got, be quiet. The aliens are coming.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a good chunk of this story that they're trying not to spoil for us. And
I hope so.
Because the storytelling was so brilliant, and you're right, 100% on point, everything character-driven about the first film, I'm hoping that there's character tie-ins also with this film, and that's part of the story that we're not being told in the trailer. So if this is the filmmaker and the studio saying, let's just put all the really expensive special effects CGI in the trailer, and that'll whet everyone's appetite, and we'll save the story elements for when people actually watch the film and actually have some self-restraint, which everyone who survives A Quiet Place will have to do anyway to survive.
Right.
I'm hoping that that's what this is. So the potential meh is, it's just an alien invasion story. I hope that's not the case. I don't think that'll be the case, but that's the potential meh for me. For you, is this a good, bad, or meh on Quiet Place Day 1, and are you planning on watching it in theaters?
I'm gonna take my concerns of it being a prequel out and just say it's good, because I do think, judging it on its own merits, which is fair, the trailer was good. It looked entertaining. I like the cast, and it's a blockbuster movie in the summer that I look forward to seeing. So definitely planning on seeing it, hoping it's great, rooting for it. Little worried, but I think overall good.
Me too. For me, this falls in the good category, and I do plan on watching this in theaters. I'm not saying it's a can't miss, but I do plan to watch this in theaters. And then is this one that you will go to see with your dad? Is this like a take dad to the movies
Yeah, I think he'd
kind of
be into
theater
it.
experience?
I think he'd
Nice.
be into it.